Hey, what is up, Polar fam? This is Shibbear, joined by the one, the only Julian on this beautiful October 12th, 2022, or October 13th, 2022, if you are in the New Zealand, Australia region out there, for our weekly Polar Community AMA on this beautiful Wednesday at 8 p.m. UTC. This is when we have our AMAs here, and obviously we are coming up on a pretty big update here. I know some people are a little bit uneasy about the timing of all that, and that's totally understandable. So this is our outlet to each and every one of you within the community. So please, if you guys do have any questions during this AMA, simply request to speak live here during the AMA or post a question away in the AMA Questions Weekly channel, and we will answer them for you live on this Discord AMA. But first, I'd like to go into just a little bit of what's been going on, what's happening, what's the new, the up and up with Polar here, right? So with all that said, I was in the chats a couple of days ago. Things are still progressing just fine. I know we mentioned early October initially, and it's officially the 12th. So I've had people say, well, now it's not early. Like, okay, I understand. I feel you. But we are working. They are progressing as they should be, and going through all the tests that they need to go through. So it is still happening. It is still coming. I can't give you an exact date. I'll say this again before I get the question. I cannot give you an exact date because I do not know yet. Enor has been working very, very diligently on the white paper. Hopefully we can get that out here sometime within the next couple of days. That's what I would really prefer. But I am going to be a little bit away from my PC next week. So I'll be kind of traveling to where I was born at with the gal. So not sure if I'll be able to do a voice AMA next week, but I can certainly do a text AMA and do some quick things there. But I won't have my recording software. So with all that stuff in mind, the earlier we can get this information out, the better, because then I can present it all to you guys accordingly anyway. So that's kind of where we are there. Lots of progress on the dev side. So we've been working very hard with a bunch of different developers to get all of it situated. I know, again, people are going to complain. I understand that. It is what it is. But please do keep up with the announcements here on the Discord if you are a part of the community, because that is where I put out the information the moment that I hear it. Enor sends me a DM. Within 2 minutes, the announcement's out here on the Discord. Now, Twitter side, Twitter side, we can always get better, of course, but Discord is where I'm kind of used to working and where I can get a lot of information out very quickly. So please keep an eye out on those announcements here on the Discord side. But I will reiterate just a little bit for anyone who does not know. We are moving to the Binance Smart Chain, to BSC here, ideally in the next several days, hopefully. Again, I cannot give a date on that just yet, but the sooner the better at this point, as long as everything is completed. So what does that mean for you? There is going to be a lot of information displayed out here with that white paper in regards to your current nodes and how they're going to translate over. There's going to be a variety of different mechanics built into there, whether that's a system of nodes requiring life potions or nodes that are either getting downgraded or having to combine them, multiple nodes into one node in order for them to transfer over. All those things will be coming here onto the version 4.0 platform on BSC. There's going to be a lot of detail right now about that. I'm going to get a lot of questions on it. I cannot quite give it out just yet, some of which I do know, some of which I don't know. But that white paper is going to be that final information to get out to you guys. So I would like to go off of that primarily, of course. So with that being said, the token that we currently have here on the Avalanche side will not be supported by the protocol after we migrate to BSC. We will leave the liquidity pool here untouched. That LP will be where it is, which means you can still trade your tokens on the AVAX side after we migrate over. What you will not be able to do, however, is claim your unclaimed tokens from those nodes. So we will give ample notice, but if you do not claim them before that migration period starts and we update to the new DApp, then there will be no way to recover them. They will be locked up into there and forever be removed from potential circulating supply on the AVAX side. We will give ample notice. But again, you have to keep up with your investments. So please, we're not going to give you 2 hours notice. We're going to give you days and days in advance to effect that change. So please keep an eye on the announcements. I know I'm going to get people that jump in and say, oh, I didn't know. I understand. We've done this 4 times. This would be our 4th migration, so I totally understand. But we will do our best to give you guys as much time as humanly possible while still affecting the update and the migration accordingly, right? So from with that being said, there's 2 different kind of games being built up as well simultaneously to the next node protocol. So there will still be a node protocol in BSC. It's going to function a little bit differently than it does now, just because this method is, as we've seen, not quite sustainable at all, right? So we hit one little bad spell in the market, and not just us, but a lot of projects took a nosedive, and we finally are finding a way to hopefully address that moving forward, simultaneously working on a couple other things, right? So Enor's been making incredible progress on the Polaris side. So the Polaris is a bigger game. It's a bigger strategy that we're looking to implement here on the long-term gamification aspect of Polar. It is separate entirely from that Bomberman style kind of, mini game style that we've given you teasers about, that Pred has been putting information out on. This Polaris game is a much larger and more encompassing game that'll be operating on BSC, obviously, or Polygon, technically. I guess you could probably navigate it to both if you choose to. So those are, once we kind of get through this migration, we have a lot of the dev team working on this update here. They can then refocus, all hands on deck, back to the Polaris side. We've actually made a ton of progress on it, even though we haven't been working directly on it, and that doesn't make sense now, but it will eventually. And we're able to get the price down quite significantly in that build. So we're doing what we can from business economic standpoints to try to make this efficient. It has to be efficient to each and every one of you when it's not only presented, but how it's built up, of course. So all of those things are working behind the scenes. I know it's kind of slow in the chats, and it's, even myself, it's hard to get those chats picked up and going because there isn't a ton moving right now, but we definitely do appreciate you guys within there, even asking questions that are, relatively, I guess if you want to call them hard questions. I don't really know if there's such thing anymore in DeFi because we've been in a bear market for so long, but any questions are accepted. But please try to keep it constructive. Constructive criticism is fantastic. I love it. But if you come in and you're just trash talking, I'm either going to straight up ignore you or, ask you to explain yourself or maybe tell you to grow up. Maybe not. I'm depending, I guess, how I'm feeling that day. So things like that, try to keep in mind that it's not easy for anybody right now. This is literally a game of survival at this point in the bear market. Unfortunately, we do have the motivation, we have the team, we have the funds, and we have the community to navigate through the bear market and survive and come out on the other end. What exactly that looks like in 6 months, I have no clue right now. But that being said, we're putting ourselves in the best position to succeed in the long term. And that's kind of the brunt of what I want to get out here on this AMA is everything matters. And we've even seen, I kind of usually talk about mental health probably every 2 AMAs at this point. Someone will bring that topic up. That does not just partake to the investors, right? So imagine if you're running a project and it was doing great, then May happened and it went way down. That's how a lot of these projects are closing down. And I'm not talking about Polar, obviously, because we're still here. But these founders, these core team members, it becomes like you're running on a hamster wheel and it's maybe even going backwards, right? So that's not easy to deal with in and of yourself. Imagine if you started a business and maybe it did well for a little bit and then it just kind of really struggles, right? That's difficult. That is difficult to manage, and it really takes a special type of personality to manage that and move forward, which is effectively why I respect Enor so much and why I like working with him, is even during like those stark downturns, you could argue that maybe he should have been more proactive with these things. But I can also sit back and say he wasn't totally rash in his decision-making process. He allowed it to kind of work itself out. We didn't want to overreact. We didn't want to underreact. He kept pretty cool, kept focused, kept the design mostly how it is. We've been working on Polaris for quite some time now, I think since version 3.0. So all those things were kept steady, which has been fantastic. And it kind of gives me some encouragement. I know I'm a community manager, but it gives me some encouragement to be able to work with and under someone who's able to actually kind of take that business mindset and understand that this isn't a 1 and 2 month game, that we really have to buckle down and kind of navigate the different highs and lows that are going to come in DeFi, and they're going to come quick and hard in a hurry. And maybe we'll see a pump tomorrow. Maybe we'll see a decline tomorrow, because if you guys don't know, and I'll stop myself before I go too far into the econ world, but we're going to have CPI data released tomorrow. And, originally I was seeing, hey, if we see 7.8%, that could be a sign of a turnaround in global economic monetary policy. But I'm actually expecting about 8.5%, which is what's also generally expected. Not good. That's inflation. That's inflation year to 1 year before. So October of last year to now, it's 8.5% is what I think the CPI data will be. What does that mean for us? Maybe I'll go into the end of the podcast, but I can talk for a million years on econ, so I won't for now unless I get asked a question about it. But that being said, I'm sure you guys do have questions. So if you do, please simply request to speak live here during the AMA. Post away in the AMA Questions Weekly channel, and we will answer them for you. So we'll kind of tap into those questions since I just talked for 12 minutes straight.
All right. Hi, I think there's no one requesting to speak, so I'll just go to the AMA Questions Weekly channel. First question from Martin FLP. Will we get a chance to test a new DEP bug test it before going live?
Yes, that's a great question there, and I would like that. So I've talked to Theodore about that myself, of just having some sort of a beta go out there for 2 or 3 days, allow the community to go in, give some feedback, try to break it, try to find the bugs. Because if we can do that before we go live, it's generally very successful, but it also gives you guys an opportunity to interact with something. So it's good for the community and it's good for the team, because developers are a weird breed. And if any of you are devs out there, I do sincerely apologize, but devs are a weird breed. So sometimes they need a little bit of incentive. So if you guys find everything that they're supposed to fix and it's all coming from you guys, maybe it can even get resolved quicker than if it's just us saying, hey, this needs to be fixed. Let's get this going. Because then we're in a beta. We say, we got to launch in 3 days. Get this figured out. A, B, C, D, E, and F need to get resolved here. Come on, let's get this going here. Let's get it working. So I think that'll be the best way to do it. Is that going to happen? I don't honestly know just yet, but I know Enor liked the idea when it was brought up. So hopefully we will see that in a beta kind of environment here soon.
All right. The next question. Thanks in advance for your answers. Hi, Shiv. Thanks in advance for your answers. I'll just go one by one, and you can answer them. The first one: is Polar currently pursuing any legal action trying to become a licensed company?
Yeah, so I'll go into that a little bit there. So we were looking into that quite significantly. Now, if you guys are not aware, Enor resides in the French area of the world, right? So establishing a business in France involving crypto is, one, not easy, two, a very, very significant, not just tax liability, but also scrutiny from the government, right? So as you may or may not have seen within the chats and via the last AMA, we were looking to introduce kind of like a hybrid DAO. And the reason for that is directly stemming off of that conversation there is, how can we still get an official business set up here so everything is done kosher, it's all done legal, but maybe not quite as scrutinized or not quite as tax heavy, real world tax, not like claims tax, things you go to jail if you don't pay kind of tax, in a way to still pursue those goals. So I think that'll likely be the way to navigate that future. We're definitely consulting with a variety of different experts in that field so we can make sure we get the right theories and the right establishments set. But as of right now, I don't have any finite information on exactly how that'll be structured, but hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll get that information out as well.
All right, second question. Is Enor the sole founder of the project and the sole decision maker, or are decisions made collegially with whom else?
Yeah, so Enor is the sole founder and owner of Polar, right? So that is how this structure is designed here, and that's mostly due to the way it was previously established with a bunch of equal shareholders. Basically, it caused quite a bit of conflict relatively quickly, right? So we avoided that. Enor is kind of the top dog there, which is good. Now, he is technically the sole decision maker, right? So he's the one that says yes or no with anything that'll go, but he is very receptive to our feedback. And Julian can attest to this. We're in, a group DM, and sometimes the developer brings up something. Sometimes I bring up something. Sometimes, Sam brings up something, or Stacks brings up something. And Enor not only acknowledges it, but we've actually seen changes in what his philosophy was based off of these suggestions. Because generally, when we approach him, we say, hey, this is what we see that might not be good with that plan, and here's a potential solution. What do you think about that? So we're not just complaining and arguing with them. We say, hey, this is what maybe could be different a little bit about it, and this is how it could be different and why it might be a little bit better in the long term, and then we let him go from there. And I will say one thing that came from the community that we passed up was the converging of nodes, so that they won't be necessarily just solely downgraded to the point of whatever they might become, but it'll be combining nodes together, which not only helps with like the cost of the migration over, but it also allows people to keep Everest compared to other tiers and nodes. That came from the community. We passed it up. Enor liked it, and that's likely where we're going to trend to. So it's a long way to say he is the sole decision maker, but he is very receptive to feedback and definitely changes and alters course with that feedback if it does make sense.
Yeah, I can definitely confirm it, and it actually also works the other way around. So if Enor has an idea, he doesn't just go for it, but he presents it to us and asks us about the opinion and maybe what the community would think. And yeah, I think usually it's a great form of communication. The third question: does Polar have plans to publish monthly reports on the current situation, like revenues or expenses?
So I know that Enor has already kind of established the idea of putting out monthly reports for the trade bot revenue, and that I definitely understand. Now, I don't know if he's going to go into all the other monthly reports there, or even provide me that information, but most of it is very transparent. So I think converging information is definitely not a bad thing, right? But I'm not going to sit here and say 100% that is a plan or not the plan. But if we do operate as like a hybrid DAO or even a full DAO, then obviously that information literally has to be totally transparent and likely published on an official form, I'd imagine, just because of how those operate in general. So we'll kind of get some more information on that there, but likely there will be at least a lot more transparency moving forward.
All right. Next question. Is Polar looking for any partnerships? If so, on what terms and what would it bring?
All right, cool. So I actually love this question. So I can speak from personal experience via another project, which I kind of, either established or orchestrated partnerships with. Of the, maybe 6 or 7, 3 have already gone under, and maybe the others are not super helpful, right? So there are definitely, actually, there is one form of partnership that's already being worked on that won't be quite a partnership like you guys might think about. It's not like partnering with, insert project and then we do AMAs together. It's more of like an actual business partnership. So those things are probably going to be the movement forward. I would be a little bit hesitant, as we've been approached by many, and I don't know if I made this public, but we even like something like Golden Society, and I don't mean to trash talk them, so I do apologize if anyone does like them. We were approached by them way back in reference to some things. I respectfully declined, and it's been a little iffy with them since then, right? So you don't really want to associate yourselves too much with projects, because one, it can give investors basically a false expectation, but it also can lead to future issues if you get too involved with them. And I think that's reasonable to say right now. Partnering with projects just because they're doing well isn't the play. Partnering with good teams with good strategies, I think is a better play. And then real world partnerships is a better play.
All right. Next question. Any details about about Polar DAO?
Yeah, so that's another great question there. There's actually a little bit of movement going on in reference to that during this AMA. So we will hopefully have some more information on all that coming out sooner rather than later. So keep on the lookout for those. We'll get some information out there, but it is moving forward. So we will likely get some good information on that in due time.
All right, so the last question from this question series is, will the new token be listed on CMC or CG?
Okay, another perfect question there. So this is another one that I actually have some personal experience with. A few things have to happen to meet those requirements of CMC and CoinGecko. That's not quite as easy as it may have been back in back in January. Many of which involve daily volume of there. Now, I've seen some projects get up there lately with very low daily volume, so maybe this requirement has been reduced a bit. But as of just a couple of weeks ago, they were requiring about 100,000 per day in volume on the token for them to consider listing it. So there are ways to kind of manipulate that if you had to, and I don't even think that's a bad thing. That's okay. But organically, I don't think we're going to be getting that 100K daily volume, at least early on. It could take some time to get kind of reestablished in that department. Now, if they've reduced those requirements, we can apply either way and figure it out. But there's everything else that they need from the requirement end we've already met or we will meet when we launch, including, there's requirements for fees or lack thereof in some cases and some other things there that we will actually be pretty clean on. So that'll be the only one is I got to look a little bit further into the volume side and we might be able to push that. I do have some contacts that maybe can push it for us if we need to, but we'll address that when the time comes and it might need a little bit of incentive to get up on there.
All right, next question from CJ. Hi, Ship. From what I know, we will need BNB to migrate our nodes when V4 goes live. Do you know if we can trade AVAX for BNB on Trader Joe using MetaMask? Sorry, I know this isn't a question directly linked to Polar, but I was hoping for some info on ways to make the migration as smooth as possible.
Okay, so there is a way, and I'm going to reply to you also in the chat as well, just with an exchange. So Rubik.exchange was introduced to me by a couple of our community members here, and I sincerely thank them for it. It makes cross-chain and different token transactions so easy. It's actually pretty fantastic. So with that exchange there, you can take your AVAX. You can even take Polar, I believe, and then you can take Polar on AVAX or AVAX on AVAX, and then exchange it for BNB on the Binance Smart Chain. And that's what you need to affect your gas. Down there is BNB on Binance Smart Chain. You can add the BSC network via your MetaMask. It's already built into there as one of the pre-established networks. So you can just add it on in pretty easy, and then that'll get you going as far as that's concerned. And then you can exchange cross-chain. I like this Rubik.exchange. There might be better out there, of course. This is one that I've personally used thanks to some of our community members shouting them out. So actually like it a lot. It's pretty cool.
All right, next question from Kato. When the white paper is out, please ensure a bullet point summary of the key changes, mechanics, timeframes, etc.
Yeah, of course. So the white paper is going to be very detailed. It's basically entirely different tokenomics. A lot of information will be coming out there. So I will be able to summarize it pretty cleanly of like here's the significant points, get them out on the Discord and the announcements, maybe even on Twitter if possible, or a Twitter thread at least. Like I said, I will be out of my house next week, but I'll be very, able to kind of move. I can do most of what I can do. I just won't have my recording software because I'll be going to Pennsylvania from Texas and bringing the gal up there. So that'll be kind of cool. And I'll be at the Eagles game Sunday night in Philly. If anyone's out in Philly, shout out to you. So that's where I'll be kind of into next week. But I can still get that information out, whether the white paper comes out right now or it comes out whenever. Pretty easy.
All right, next question from Babushka. What's the PA target for the new token? What are the plans to make it stable, and what's the game gonna add to the nodes?
All right, so with the game side, they're not going to have. I'm not sure exactly the direct connection to nodes, right? So with the mini game that's coming out, it will be able to utilize the Polar token or whatever token that is on BSC. So that'll be at least a use case of the token itself. But what is a price action target for the new token? Well, price action is up or down. So ideally we can get an upward price action target. But if you mean price point target, that is, I kind of go into it every week, literally subjective. We can make a token, $500,000, and then you just get fractions of it. You can make a token 0.000000000058, and technically that 0.0000000058 could be more beneficial than the $500,000 token, right? So it's because you can have X amount of millions of them or billions or whatever. So things like that are all very, very subjective about how we introduce a new liquidity pool. But I expect it to be probably around that 10-cent mark. I think Enor's talked about that enough for me to say, hey, that's likely going to be where he would like to introduce a new token price. So that'll be kind of where I would expect it to kind of trend towards at the beginning. Now, what are the plans to make it stable, right? As have been noted very, very often in the general chats there. Well, if nothing changes, it's going to continue to go down. Of course, that is literally how tokens work, right? If there's no buy pressure, the token can't go up. So I don't expect an LMS by any means. I've gone into that in depth, but I could do it again. I think there is a place for either built-in contractual buybacks or strategic buybacks. And then I also believe that there is a total change. Well, I know for sure there's a total change in tokenomics that'll significantly reduce daily emissions and also reduce the amount of polar going out in general. It'll also increase likely a buy and sales tax within the token itself. And then there might be a decreased claims tax, kind of offset that there a little bit. But there'll be literally a total different mechanics there. Ideally, we can get some marketing out simultaneously, whether that's just getting influencers to try to push it. But it is hard to market right now. If any of you are in any other projects out there, holy heck, is it hard to get new money in. So it's very difficult. So those things are all considered. I'm just a realist. Again, I'm not making excuses. You guys have known me long enough there. We do need to have more incentive for the Polar token itself, but at the very least, we can have a new mechanic, much lower emissions as we kind of grow and build for the longevity of the project. And then we keep building. Eventually, we'll get out of this bear market. Maybe that's tomorrow when the CPI data comes out and it totally blows my mind and we come out with 6.2%, which I don't think is going to happen. I think it's going to be 8.5%. But that being said, you never know when it does flip around. Money comes back in. Google just partnered with Coinbase. They just started setting up a plan to accept crypto for cloud storage services in the future. So there could be some, mass kind of influx of money into crypto from the corporate side over time. Google is the number 4 largest company. So that is kind of cool, from the S&P index fund. I think they're number 4. Then 1 and 3 is Apple and Microsoft, if I'm not mistaken. So once all those start getting on board, you could see a quick turnaround, not just in crypto finances, but global finances. But until then, we really have to focus on the fundamentals here. Let's get a good project, ideally something that encourages new investors to want to come in, whether it's involving the game, whether it's involving the nodes, whether it's involving the whatever the case might be. But I'm not going to sit here and say that we're going to see a significantly positive price action the moment that we go over to version 4.0. Because I think that would be unrealistic thinking, to be perfectly honest. There's no magic switch that we can flip, but we can keep building, we can keep engaging, we can keep trying to make us better and better and better every day, and then allow kind of that influx to work either for or against the market conditions, whatever they might be doing as we move into the future. So that was a lot of words. I kind of apologize for rambling a little bit, but that's kind of the trajectory and the plans of the version 4.0.
All right, last question so far from Barbie Boy. Is it possible that the project is renamed? It may be hard to sell if people associate AVIX Polar with Binance Polar.
Yeah, so Enor has actually dropped a little hint in the chats a while back about a new name of a token itself. So I honestly kind of been expecting a new name for the project, but I don't know that yet. So personally, I honestly don't know. That's going to be news to me as well, but I think that would be a good idea from a marketing perspective, is to jump in, establish a new token, establish a new name, new branding, a new, pretty much new everything. You're on a new blockchain with a new liquidity pool. So why not? This is a big update. You're not saying that we are, not Polar. We're not pretending like we weren't Polar right before then, but we are saying this was the growth and the adaptation. And if you guys are business affluent, maybe that just means we are now doing business as a DBA, whatever the new name would be, even though we established as Polar. So if you guys don't know that reference, don't worry about it. All that means is like you had a company and then now you're doing business as, whatever. That way you can function under either a different scope or in a different environment. So just a different name, but same legalities. All right. Who would have thought that you might get a little bit of econ and business information while we're in here? Acronyms for life. Again, if you guys do have any questions, please simply request to speak here on the AMA. Ask away in the AMA Questions Weekly. It's only been 32 minutes. It's quite a bit of a time to talk. But that being said, we are more than happy to engage with you guys there. I know it's been a little bit slower, so I totally understand if there's not a ton of questions yet. Once we have a white paper, I'm sure there will be a lot more, whether they're good questions, bad questions, happiness, anger, joy, discontent, whatever it might be, we will be here to answer it with you and for you. So no worries on that end. Please try to be respectful. As you guys know, I've had a career in public service, so I'm not going to sit here and cry if someone calls me a bad word, but it's also not a good look for the community. So just please try to be respectful with the team and with each other, no matter what comes out in that white paper, because there are going to be big changes. I've been saying that for a long time. Big changes, necessary changes. So that's what we're here for.
Actually, there's a question it's actually a little older, it's like from an hour ago, in a general chat from Chicken XRP. Hey Ship, when we migrate our nodes, will the Everest and Olympus still be generating a nice profit? I bought in right before the fall, so I spent mega on them. I know it won't be the same as it was, but I hope for something.
Yeah, so that's another good question there, and it is very hard for me to say. You guys know that I'll never tell people what to do with their money, what they're going to earn, because that's not my job. It's not my function in life. So what I can say is that the new system will be designed to be more advantageous than it is right now. So whether that means it turns out to be better than right now or not will be determined by results, right? But it's designed, it's been formulated and developed as such to give a better future for those who are invested with us. And like I said, there are going to be massive changes. Ideally, this isn't confirmed, but I don't like daily ROI above 1%. I don't like it. I think it's very hard to keep that trajectory. Now you could say, well, so-and-so project does it. Okay, cool, gotcha. But ours clearly doesn't work, right? If it's 2%, 3%, where are we at? 3.2, 5%. There's all sorts of crazy things out there in the world. That's very, very hard. So you can argue that, allowing it to look more profitable might be less profitable because of its bad tokenomics. Then it just creates a quicker downward price action, and then you don't get as much relief over time. So keep an open mind. That's kind of my answer to that. There is, we're going to get the white paper out, read through it, take a second, think about it, ask questions along the way. I don't care if you go line by line and tag me 20 times. I'll answer the questions, no worries, so that you can get a full understanding of that aspect. Now, I know for a fact that there are going to be people who are not happy about what they're going to read in that white paper, and they're going to, that's okay. And I don't want to say like, oh, well, then you could just pack up your bags and go home. That's not how I operate. But if you don't want to be here, at least try to get after you read the white paper, try to get a clear understanding of it. Don't, jump emotionally, jump to conclusions, say, hey, why do you think this is a good idea? What is the thought process behind this? I'll answer you. You don't have to like it. And then from there, you can decide. You could say, hey, I think there's going to be a better future, or I think there's not going to be a better future, and you can move on. And there's no hard feelings on our end. We're not going to sit here and, talk down on anyone for anything that they, if they choose not to move forward, nothing like that there. I want this to be transparent. I want this to be an open conversation. So there's going to be a lot of information out. some people are going to be happier than others, and it's not, it just is what it is. I think those who can get a genuine understanding that a lower emissions rate is the only way to survive, then I think you could swallow that pill a little bit harder from the information that might come out in the white paper. So I'm kind of setting you guys up a little bit of foreshadowing. There's going to be some big changes, which I've been saying for a long time. So hopefully that is not news to you. But if it is, that's okay too. That's what we're here for. So all good on that end. But we do have one more question that popped up in the AMA question channel.
Um, um. Actually, we even have someone requesting to speak. Maybe we should lead with that.
Yeah, cool. So let's see, bring them up here. I do like to prioritize those who are going to speak live. So, Fish Scallion, what's going on, man? Once you unmute, you will be live with us.
What's going on, man?
Hey, not so much. How are you?
I'm good. I was gonna initially ask if you guys had considered capping the daily ROI at something like 1%, but you kind of addressed that. But this might be something that people have already asked or addressed, and I just missed it. But have you guys also ever considered moving to your own blockchain? Is that something that might be in the future, or like a cashless blockchain?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of research on those, and it's hard for me to understand the genuine value there, right? So it's like when you try to launch on someone else's DEX. Okay, there might be some micro value to that, but what is it really in the long term? What if that blockchain fails? What if that DEX fails? What if they get compromised because they don't have the money to have the same security measures as maybe Binance Smart Chain does, right? Which we just saw them get to a point where they had to close down the BSC for, I don't know, like 12 hours or so, but they
Right.
were able to actually handle it. Can Red Light handle that? You know what I mean? Can Insert Dex in whomever handle that? I don't know. And that's kind of what worries me is if all your liquidity, if all your movement is there on an unproven blockchain, even if it's your own, what happens if something bad happens? Then you are literally SOL. There is no coming back once that happens there. So that does make me a little bit nervous. And I'm sure that people can develop some great things out there. I'm sure on that, but that makes me a little bit nervous.
Understandable. That's really all I had. I guess also, are you guys still are we thinking that the migration launch is still going to be in October?
Yeah, I hope so, man. I'm hoping here that we get some finite information the next couple of days. Even if it's just a few days delayed, that's fine with me. But I don't want this thing to move over to November or even late October, to be honest. I don't think we're definitely not trending towards that. And I don't think that should be well, we can just delay it longer. That shouldn't be the mindset. So I'm with you there. I think we need to get this out here sooner rather than later.
Okay, cool. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, thanks for coming up here. Great questions. Cool. You guys know that I do like live questions, so please simply ask away. Request to speak, we'll answer you there. We do have one still in the AMA question channel.
Yeah. Another question from Kato. Will there be a time limit to migrate, and what happens after?
Yeah, so I would like some sort of a time limit, whether it's 30 days, something like that, something reasonable, at least multiple weeks. And then we don't have to worry about those nodes migrating over in 5 months, right? So I think we need to give some sort of a time limit, but it has to be reasonable. It's not going to be a day or two or even a week. It really should be 30 to 45 days, in my opinion, and then say, okay, this is it. This is your last chance. Do you still want to be a part of this train or not? And let people choose if they want to get on board. And that's okay if they don't. Like I said, no hard feelings on us, but I don't want to give an indefinite time. But I also want to give a reasonable time because people are out of the country. People are living their lives. People need us to gather together a little bit of BNB, whatever the case might be. We need to give them that opportunity there. I think 30 days is more than enough time, in my opinion, to make that decision. So we'll kind of see how that goes from there. But I don't have an official timeline on that just yet.
All right. There's one more question. Do you have any teasers today?
So right now, I know Enor's dropped some things recently. I'll see if I can work with him and get something else that we could put out there. I know he's kind of wanted to get together like even like a teaser, video kind of thing where it's not just an image. So things like that there. Hopefully we can start pumping those out and get them all looking good and moving forward. But I don't have anything here on my computer right now to drop in the live chat. So sooner rather than later, hopefully.
All right. Yeah, I think that was the last question. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that being said, we are at the 40 plus. Sorry if you guys can hear my dog. He sees my little light reflecting off my microphone. He's freaking out because he wants to play with it. So shout out to him as well. His name is Poseidon. He's in my PFP here. Anyway, so you missed the image last week. I had to do that live during the AMA. That was part of my obligation. So unfortunately, I don't have one right now, but I do like that. People did like that where I dropped something live and then removed it by the end of the AMA. It was pretty fun there. But that being said, I think we've answered all the questions for this week. So I just want to say, hey, thank you again for all of you for tuning in here on this weekly community AMA, this beautiful October 10th, 2022. Thank you, Julian, for joining us here. Glad that you are feeling a bit better after the last couple of weeks. Again, I will not be around next week to do a voice AMA because I just won't have any of my software or my PC, but I can at least get some information out to you guys then, and I can do an emergency AMA from my phone if we have some big information to drop there, of course. So continue to ask questions, continue to get involved here in the community, be active here on the Discord. I like to interact with you guys, and it gives our mods some work to do as well, so definitely appreciate all that. But until then, we will catch you all throughout the week, and then next week, hopefully some more details. So peace out, Polar Fam.
Bye.